Hey guys, tonight we're talking about how Keir Starmer went from promising to be different to becoming everything people thought they voted against. So, picture this. Less than a year ago, Starmer swept into power promising change, promising to fix Britain's broken systems, and now he's sitting at approval ratings that would make a parking meter look popular. But before we dive into this political dumpster fire, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from, whether you're trying to fall asleep to the soothing sounds of political chaos, or if you're on some late-night drive wondering how we ended up with a Prime Minister who makes his predecessor look like a master diplomat. The thing is, Starmer's transformation has been so dramatic, it's like watching someone order a salad and then demolish 3 Big Macs while maintaining eye contact. Remember when this guy was supposed to be the sensible, moderate alternative? The grown-up in the room? Well, turns out the grown-up's first instinct when faced with pressure was to adopt every single policy position he once criticised, but somehow make them worse. It's like he looked at the Conservative Party's greatest hits album and thought, you know what this needs? More volume and less self-awareness. The immigration flip-flop alone is something to behold. This is the same Keir Starmer, who as Director of Public Prosecutions literally wrote guidance saying people shouldn't be prosecuted for offensive social media posts except in extreme circumstances. Fast forward to 2025, and his government is arresting over 30 people a day for online comments that cause annoyance or anxiety. You know that feeling when someone borrows your car and returns it with different radio stations programmed in? That's basically what Starmer did to the Labour Party, except instead of radio stations, it was fundamental principles about free speech and human rights. Now, let's talk about immigration, because this is where things get really spicy. In May 2025, Starmer stood at a podium in Downing Street and declared an end to what he called Britain's failed experiment in open borders. He used the phrase, "take back control," 5 times in one speech. 5 times. That's the same slogan Brexit campaigners used, the same phrase Starmer spent years mocking as populist nonsense. It's like watching a vegan open a steakhouse and then acting surprised when people call them a hypocrite. But here's the kicker. While Starmer was busy cosplaying as Nigel Farage, the actual immigration numbers under his watch have been absolutely catastrophic. According to the latest data from Facts4EU, small boat crossings in the first 7 months of 2025 exceeded the 3-year average by nearly 10,000 people. That's a 60% increase compared to the typical numbers. So when Starmer bragged to Donald Trump that his government had returned 35,000 small boat migrants, the reality check was swift and brutal. Turns out, only about 6,700 were actually enforced returns, and most of those were Albanians under an agreement the previous Conservative government had already negotiated. It's like claiming you cleaned your house when you really just moved all the mess to your neighbour's garage, except your neighbour is Albania and they're getting tired of your stuff. The new immigration rules Starmer announced are fascinating in their complete disconnect from reality. Migrants now need to spend 10 years in the UK before applying for citizenship instead of 5, and there are tougher English language requirements across all visa routes. But here's the thing, these changes only affect legal migration, the people who are actually following the rules. Meanwhile, the small boats keep coming at record numbers because surprisingly, people willing to risk their lives crossing the English Channel aren't particularly concerned about whether the paperwork process takes 5 years or 10. But immigration is just the warm-up act. The real main event is how Starmer's Britain has become a place where police are making over 30 arrests per day for social media posts that someone, somewhere, found offensive. We're talking about 12,000 arrests in 2023 alone for communications that cause annoyance, inconvenience, or anxiety. That's more arrests per day than most countries make for actual violent crimes. The cases are absolutely mind-bending. Lucy Connolly, a mother grieving the loss of a child, posted an angry message on X after the Southport attack, then deleted it hours later. She got 31 months in prison. 31 months. For a deleted tweet posted in grief and anger. Compare that to actual violent criminals who often get suspended sentences, and you start to see why people are calling this two-tier justice. It's like living in a world where jaywalking gets you life in prison, but armed robbery gets you community service. Then there's the case of the Hertfordshire parents who criticised their 9-year-old daughter's school in a WhatsApp group. 6 police officers showed up at their door, arrested them, fingerprinted them, and locked them in cells for 8 hours. The police later admitted there was no evidence of criminality, but the chief constable doubled down, saying the arrest was justified because the law forbids words that cause alarm, harassment, and distress. Think about that for a second. If causing someone distress with words is now a criminal offence, then every divorce lawyer in Britain should be serving life sentences. The government has dedicated police officers scouring social media, looking for offensive content. That's actual police resources being used to scroll through Twitter looking for hurt feelings, while actual crime goes unsolved. Metropolitan Police Commissioner Mark Rowley even threatened to go after people posting from further afield online, basically claiming jurisdiction over the entire internet. They're threatening to extradite foreign nationals for social media posts that violate British law. The situation really exploded after the Southport attack in July 2024, when 3 young girls were killed at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class. What followed was a perfect storm of government incompetence, public anger, and authoritarian overreach. The riots that erupted were obviously wrong, no question about that. But Starmer's response was to essentially declare war on free speech itself. He didn't just go after the rioters, he went after anyone who said anything online that could remotely be construed as supporting, encouraging, or even just discussing the riots. The Crown Prosecution Service released a chilling video with the message, "Think before you post. Content that incites violence or hatred isn't just harmful, it can be illegal." This was shared by the official UK government account with the ominous warning, "Think before you post." It's like something out of a dystopian novel, except it's real life and it's happening in what used to be considered one of the world's leading democracies. A 55-year-old woman was arrested for sharing a social media post claiming the Southport suspect was an asylum seeker who came to the UK by boat. Whether that was true or false is beside the point. The idea that you can be arrested for sharing incorrect information on social media should terrify anyone who values free expression. The government's response has been so heavy-handed that even members of Starmer's own Labour Party are calling him out. Nadia Whittome accused him of mimicking the scaremongering of the far right, while Zara Sultana questioned whether his speeches were actually written by Nigel Farage. When your own party members are comparing you to the politicians you spent years opposing, you might want to take a step back and reconsider your strategy. So why does everyone suddenly hate Keir Starmer? Because he's managed to create a perfect storm of broken promises, failed policies, and authoritarian overreach that would be impressive if it weren't so terrifying. He promised to be different from the Conservatives, then adopted their policies but made them worse. He promised to fix immigration, then presided over record-breaking numbers while cracking down on legal migrants. He promised to restore faith in institutions, then turned the police into the thought police. The nickname Two-Tier Keir has stuck because it perfectly captures the hypocrisy. There's one set of rules for people the government likes, and another set for everyone else. Post angry tweets about immigration, prison. commit actual violent crimes. Well, the courts are very understanding about your difficult circumstances. Starmer's approval ratings are in free fall because people are finally seeing through the facade. He's not the competent adult in the room. He's the guy who promised to fix the broken washing machine, then set it on fire and blamed the previous owners. The most damaging thing about all this is how it's destroyed trust in British institutions. When the police are arresting people for social media posts while ignoring actual crime, when the government is threatening to extradite foreign nationals for tweets, when the Prime Minister is adopting the rhetoric of the far right while claiming to represent the sensible centre, you create a crisis of legitimacy that's much harder to fix than any individual policy failure. Vice President J.D. Vance was absolutely right when he said, "Free speech is in retreat across Europe," and Starmer's denial just makes it worse. When you're arresting over 30 people a day for online speech, claiming you're not censoring anyone is like claiming you're not wet while standing in the rain. The tragedy is that Britain used to be a beacon of free expression, the country that gave us John Stuart Mill's On Liberty and centuries of common law protecting individual rights. Now it's becoming a cautionary tale about how quickly democratic norms can collapse when politicians prioritise control over freedom. So there you have it, Keir Starmer, the man who promised change and delivered chaos, who pledged competence and provided authoritarianism, who vowed to restore trust and instead destroyed it completely. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and maybe think twice before posting anything online if you're planning to visit Britain anytime soon. Because in Starmer's Britain, your tweets might just land you in prison, and that's not hyperbole anymore, it's just Tuesday.